Welcome, everyone, to the L7C Podcast NBA Playoff Edition. Today, we are going to be talking about what happened in the conference semifinals of the East and the West, talk a little NBA draft as well, and then go from there. We got the NBA aficionado with us, Mr. Evan Debo. How are you doing today, sir?
Martin, I'm doing good. It's sunny outside finally. The rain has passed, but there is a perpetual storm cloud over every fiber in my being after one of the results we will talk about here shortly. How are things on your end?
Oh, pretty much pretty similar. The playoffs have been really fun to watch, except for what we're going to lead the show with. But besides that, I've really enjoyed these playoffs. I've enjoyed other teams shine, some young guns taking over the league. And like you just said, the sun is shining where we live because we've had a multitude of days of intense storms throughout. And anytime you think you go outside, it's raining. So I'm glad we have some good weather, but let's not bury the lead. The first series we're talking about is our Cleveland Cavaliers, to a shock to many, not just losing the series to the Indiana Pacers, Evan, losing in 5 games in the fifth game at
Yeah, it wasn't pretty, Martin. I think there's this mental toughness piece we'll get to in a second that I think, like that absolutely would have played a role if you had everybody 100% healthy, but like there's so many. Each game was its own storyline. I think the biggest thing, yeah, like you said, gentleman sweep by a gritty, tough Pacers team. Health will be a conversation we'll talk about in all these series. We knew, going in, we didn't have Darius Garland in the last 2 games of the Heat series. He did not play game one. That in kind of a microcosm of itself. Cavs drop first game at home. You never want to do that. 121, 112. Game two, I was at one point, Donovan with no. So that first game, let's go back to the first game. So first game,
Cleveland.
DeAndre Hunter goes up for a layup. He gets shoved in the chest with one hand by Matherin, and then his left hand he blocks the shot. No call, hard tumble going the other way. Jared Allen, tough tumble in that game as well too, but was able to work through it the rest of the series. No excuses for him. The ongoing toe issue with Darius. Donnie's ankle would become an issue heading the rest of the series. You have Mobley come down on a contesting foot in game one as well too. And then, yeah, heading into game two, it was announced 30 minutes before when I was up there at the Clevelander getting my pregame meal on with a buddy, and that Darius Garland, DeAndre Hunter, Evan Mobley wouldn't play. And you're like, crap, this isn't good. They put themselves in a position there. And then, down the stretch, that last 2 minutes, Cavs could not inbound the ball, several turnovers. You get to a spot where Pacers are storming back in game two. And I mean, there was no call. The NBA 2 minute report would say several lane violations to get what would be the offensive rebound of the game winning shot. And Tyrese sinked it. I mean, and from there, I mean, you're down 0-2, and they just had our soul the rest of the series on top of, some health stuff. But I mean, they just dogged us. Phenomenal work by the Pacers. I mean, I can't remember the stat, Martin. Somebody said since they began tracking, like average over a series, like how far defensively you're picking up the other team. No team has picked up another team as far away from the basket as the Pacers did to us in this series. And that was evident every play. They made us work. They knew Darius was hobbled. Ty Jerome was absolutely unplayable. He just could not keep up with the speed of the Pacers, and just the speed and the pace. And I mean, it was like a college team on steroids. I mean, they just completely owned us. They just completely owned us in this series. I'd like to see us fully healthy. Who wouldn't? That probably doesn't necessarily change the series, what it ended up being. But I mean, they dog us, man, and they advance. What did you see?
Saying, like you already said, you were at game two, right?
Yeah,
All right. So I'm just going to, because
devastating.
so first game one, the first thing that I Saul really is just
They hit everything in game one.
they did
I
their
mean,
whole
everything.
starting these whole starting five was in double digits. The lowest person in double digits was Miles with a respectable 13, and then even Benedict had 11 off the bench. So just like your whole starting lineup
Nemhard and
having
Neesmith were at one point 4 of 5 and 5 of 6 from three themselves. Like they just were like no scope and 180. All the sliders are up on 2K.
yeah,
There's
so like that was crazy. While on the Cleveland side, like we had just the game one, I was just like, all right, Indiana's coming in, they're feeling good, okay, whatever. But the game you were at was the one where I was just like, oh, this is really, really bad because Donovan was he was unstoppable.
48 points in game two.
48. And I've seen something where Donovan Mitchell, he broke MJ's record for like most 30-point game, whatever. I don't know if it was
Game ones.
game ones ever in history. Like the guy was
He
like
shows
really
up.
playing his heart out. And I agree that game two, I was just like, all right, this is tough, like 48, and we still lose. Game three, they come back, they win. They win that in pretty dominating fashion, Indiana, and I still think we have hope. It's still sour with me. That game four, like that thing is still so sour in my mouth. Like I just still cannot get over it. I really can't. Like I went to work the next day. I went to a conference after that, and all I could think about was literally anytime anyone brought up like, oh, just water cooler talk at a conference, like, oh, what are you into? Stuff like that. Oh, I'm watching basketball. Oh, you watch the playoffs. You a Cavs fan, and then you're just like, yeah, and then talk about the game four. I'm just like, I couldn't believe they were almost down 50 points.
They, I, it to go from game three. So game three, Kenny had a really interesting wrinkle. He went to a 3-2 zone that they just were like, I don't know what to do, and the Pacers stopped. Like they just punched them back like you expected the Cavs to do. Like they punched like all three came back and played, compromised versions of themselves for sure. But by game four, they'd solved it, and Kenny kept rolling with it, and it was clearly not working. Like the playoffs are a series of you make an adjustment, I make an adjustment, you
Yes.
make an adjustment, I make an adjustment. And Kenny did not do that in game four. And at a certain point, like it just like we were hobbled. We couldn't get up and down the court well. Like we weren't getting into our offense. We weren't getting into, our defense. Like it just when Darius and Donnie both had like the wheels they had on top of the fact that they're really small guards. Like they are not they're at on a good day, you're at a an average league defender for Donnie. But I mean Darius is always going to be in an underdeveloped, thing based on his size. But I mean, it just you've got guys that are hobbled, and then they just couldn't keep up with your TJ McConnells and your Nemhards and your Neesmiths. And I mean, they were blitzing us. They were cutting into the angles of that 3-2 zone. They just owned us. Kenny didn't get away from it. And at a certain point, they just mentally gave up. And it was 40 plus in a deficit. Bench came in, eventually made it like 20 by the end of it. But like everybody in the building knew that game wasn't as close as it was. Like the Cavs just gave up.
Yeah. And then when you get to the game five in your place in Cleveland, just look at the stat line again. We talked. I know you brought up Pascal Siakam, who had a pretty good series in
Oh,
himself with
phenomenal.
the 21 points in the
I knew he
closeout in the
would.
game five. But then you look at the Cavs. Donovan Mitchell again playing his heart out, 35. Evan Mobley having a double double with 24. Garland only 11, and then Jared Allen 9 points, and then Max Strus 0 points. Just was awful, like awful. 0 for 9
We,
from the field, 0 for
we
6 for
didn't we didn't
three.
lose this series, but Max Strus had a bad game. But Max Strus had 20 points like twice in the series, and that never happens. Like there was you can't afford to have. I mean, he was a symptom of what ended up being the swan song on our season for sure in that game five. But I know he's been dogged about don't even show up in the group text, and he didn't show up, and like yeah, I mean there's a risk of that. I mean, especially when you're playing a really good defensive team that can shut you out. But I mean, we were up 19 in the first, and I was like, okay, well, maybe we can do this, three straight thing. Like even if we are super injured and stuff. And then Halliburton hit like 4 or 5 threes in the second quarter and just started slinging them back. I mean, he'd have 30 plus by the end of it. But I mean, it looked physically painful for them to bring the ball up the court. Like, I don't say that as in like, yeah, you're getting pressured and you're experiencing a full court press to some extent, but like they just were so lethargic and just were out of it. And like you could just see the writing on the wall, like with themselves, Martin. Did you see that too? Like, it's just like, I mean, it was like playing basketball just wasn't fun. Like the Pacers made it not fun.
Yeah, they want it to be done. Like, and you talked about Tyrese about ever since he got voted by his peers unanimously the most overrated player in the league, he's just been playing really well. Like that last game you just talked about, that closeout game, he went 6 for 10 from three.
Yep.
6 for 10 from three,
But
10 for
they
15 from the
they won
field.
that series. Halliburton, yeah, I mean the Cavs definitely could have done some different things. I think defensively on him, but the Cavs lost the series because of Neesmith and Nemhard and what they did defensively, and when they started just making everything from three in a couple different games too. Like they just those are the cogs in the engine that drive the Pacer machine. Like and again, and that goes with Tyrese. Tyrese was fantastic. Like people are dumb to say he's overrated or whatever else they were saying. I mean, he had a bad start to the year and they've been on a tear, since, the 20 game mark essentially. So, I mean, it's no surprise they're advancing.
I
Martin,
don't know. I don't
go
know,
ahead.
like with the overrated thing. I don't know where people. My thing is like, I don't know where they thought he was rated. Like, that's what my thing is like. All right, if he's overrated, where did you hear that people were placing him like top two, top three, top five in the league? Then yeah, that's overrated because he's not one of those top two, top
Correct.
five players. So that's my confuse. I'm like, where were people like? I even look Reddit, Twitter. I'm like, where do people think Tyrese Halliburton's ranked? Like that's what I was trying to figure out with the overrated thing.
No idea, Martin. I mean, so yeah, I mean, it sucks when you don't have, and I mean, Rick Carlisle alluded to it at the end of like, it was I wish we didn't have to end their season this way. Like saying, I mean, not this belittle his kid, but like, or his own kid, his kids, his players, kids. There's adults, but like he recognizes too. Like sometimes this happens, and that's why sometimes you keep cores together and you don't change it up every year because you just never know when you're going to run against, you know, injuries or anything else. And again, I'm not blaming the series entirely on injuries. I think the Cavs' ability to be competitive, because they weren't competitive when you lose in 5 games, but the Cavs' ability to be competitive and be what we saw all season was dependent upon them being healthy. And, that there's something at a certain point, you and I could be doing this podcast 2 or 3 years ago, and this might just be recency bias of, hey, like it sucks. Like we're all in doom and gloom session right now. But you can have really good players who show up for a good chunk of the time, but if they can't take the physicality or you've got data points of DNPs or medical logs on they're questionable, probable, enough of those add up, then conceptually extreme version of this is you become a Zion Williamson, great player, but like conceptually, conceptually a great player, but like physically can't stay on the court. And maybe that's going to be the case for Darius Garland down the road. And again, I'm not trying to like blame like people. We've seen people overcome injuries, getting better routines, get better medical staffs, all the different things. I mean, look what happened to Steph earlier in his career. Darius is still young, but like at a certain point, I think you got to weigh those things when you're looking to make moves 2 or 3 years down the road. And for the Cavs, they really can't make moves. They start as a second apron team now with the Mobley Defensive Player of the Year that bumps us up. And then once you do that, you can only do like one for ones. It cannot be $1 above what the other player made. Like there's so many pieces. There's no change in this team, man. You can sign some vet mins and change some stuff around the fringes with two ways, but so I mean that's what the Cavs offseason looks like. But I mean the Pacers are living like it's 1999. And Martin, let's talk about the other reason why it might be 1999 for the other half of the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, there's one more thing on the Pacers too. Like this is their unbeknownst for some people, if you didn't know, their second straight year actually in the Eastern Conference Finals, which is crazy in itself. And just to, I don't want to put more new doom and gloom on the Cavs, but uh, the second round currently, because your history is what your history is in this league. That is Donovan Mitchell's cap limit so far, man. He has not made it out of the second
Yep.
round ever.
Yep. And again, none of this was
None of this
anything
was
he
his
could have
fault.
done. Yeah.
It's just a bad
But
statistic
it's a
to be associated
yeah,
with.
yeah. I mean, at a certain point, it's just sometimes it's injury, sometimes it's the buzzsaw he saw in the Western Conference at times with different years too. But he's what, 28 or so. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not like he's James Harden and not being able to ever win a game seven or get to the pinnacle himself. Way late in his career. But I mean, absolutely something to keep an eye on. But I mean, the Pacers just the Pacers saw an opening and they made the most of it, and they did it entirely well. I mean, I am going to pick them to move to the Eastern Conference Finals. I think so. But Martin, Cavs weren't the only team to go down 2-0 with the top two seed in the East.
No, they
Boston,
weren't. The reigning defending NBA champions, the Boston Celtics, were going against the New York Knicks, and I would say, objectively, how they went down. Spoiler: how Boston went down 0-2 at home was worse than the Cleveland one, just for the fact that they gave up 20-point leads in both games one and two at home. Cleveland didn't do all that to lose their games one and two at home. So Boston's ones were pretty bad, and they were fully healthy as well. And it was almost the same type of ordeal of Boston then finding themselves in that hole, then realizing if they go down 0-3, the series is pretty much over because no team has come back from 0-3 in the NBA playoffs. So then you have Boston fighting back, trying to come back. They win game three in New York. Game four happens. You have a really good game
really
going
good.
on. Like really, like we talk about this in the sport of basketball, especially the NBA, a player's legacy game. You A lot of players have multiple legacy games, but and I'm not saying these are the definitive ones for these players, but for example, you think of LeBron, you think about that Heat game with everyone knows the meme when they're going against Boston, or you think about maybe back with the game five against Detroit in '07. You think of Jordan, you think of the flu game, and there's other ones as well, the 6 threes at half, the shrugs. So Tatum and Brunson were going at it. You thought this was going to be one of these epic duels in NBA history. Unfortunately, Jason Tatum does go down in this game. Had 42, goes down, and Brunson and them they take it in game five. Boston wins, and then they go back to the Garden. Game six, Knicks win, and the Knicks pull off the epic upset. Evan winning in six in our um, not our lifetime, our adult lives that we witnessed the biggest wins in the New York Knicks have ever had in our adult lives.
Yeah, yep, that's true. Um, So a couple things on Boston here. Obviously, the Tatum news is awful because not
Very
only does it
awful.
impact their ability to stay alive once
Hmm.
they were down 3-1 or on the verge of being down 3-1, but obviously, like he ain't going to play until maybe the playoffs next year. So,
Yeah.
and then on top of it, from Boston's standpoint, like you knew this team was like, I'm making this up, like a triple apron team. Like there's no third apron, but like they were so far over the tax. They are so far over the tax. They got to figure out how to like attach picks to like Drew Holiday and some other big things to try to like lower it because you can't do this now. They've hinted at it. There's been a Shams report about they got to shed some salary somehow, but like I want to go back. So Boston, it just was so surprising, man, and like it compounds things for the Cavs because if you're the Cavs, you've owned the New York Knickerbockers all you have owned them all year. Like the Knicks coming into this before playing this series were 0-12 against OK or 0-10 against OKC, the Cavs, and Boston. But like I felt so good about if we could have gotten the Knicks. Like if we could have come back, we could have tied the series when we were down 2-1. I was like, man, if we seeing how Boston went down 2-0, 0-2 at home, I'm like, man, if we can do this, like this could be our year of all years. But we just couldn't get it done. But the Celtics, again, they just win and die by the three. I mean, they will chuck themselves into a game and then they will chuck themselves out of a game. I think one of those two games they lost at
Ga-
home. I think it was
Games one
game.
and two, they were 25 for 100 from three.
Yep, and then in I think it was game. I think it was the third quarter of game two. 19 of the 20 shots they took were from three. And that just can't happen when you have some of the most talented slashing wings in the league in Jaylen Brown, who was dealing with some knee issues, and gritted through those. But a fully healthy Jason Tatum at the time, like that just can't happen. And that's how like the Cavs came back in Boston famously, like in the fall, like same thing, like during the streak, like you've seen them do it to themselves over and over and over again. So they came back like we knew they would in game three. Game four, it's going to get lost, I think, too much just on the Boston optimism narrative. But like when Tatum went down, like I don't have the stat in front of me, but like that lead was growing significantly
It
for
was.
New York with minutes to go. Like if he didn't go down, like I mean, we're talking maybe a 0.05% chance, but only because it's Jason Tatum, that he could have willed them back and like tried to get to overtime or something. But I mean, it was the amount of possessions and the amount of time clock, just the math wasn't there. But just devastating again for him to go down. Good on the Celtics for defending home court and the next game. But I mean, the Knicks. I've never seen Deuce McBride. I don't. There were times this year, Martin. I said, why is this guy on a roster? Everybody chants Deuce as he shoots a three and bricks a three, like over and over and over again. But the dude hit buckets in this playoff series. Like
Hmm.
for once in his life, he actually was a contributor off the bench when they needed folks like that. I mean, you got what you got out of Cat, and the pick and roll machine that is him and Brunson, and then Josh Hart had a really really good series as well too on the offensive side of things, particularly hitting some threes there mid series that he's not always prone to make. But I mean, we got a Knicks Pacers final here, the East final here, and the Celtics. I mean, again, they got a lot of looking at themselves to see what can we keep alive in this offseason. I mean, it's just unbelievable. You just never know on any given year. It feels like March Madness, man, because the top two seeds are out of it, who are so dominant along with OKC all year long.
I will say with the Pistons, with New York, I think they got to thank the Pistons because I mean they had a real intense series before this
Yes,
Boston thing, so they were battle tested, like league
unlike the
changes.
Cavs.
Unlike unlike the Cavs and unlike Boston, but they came in battle tested. They did not blink at all when they were down all those points. And I mean, Brunson won Clutch Player of the Year for a reason. I was really impressed, like watching New York. I started to root for them, like just watching the fact because it's like they just never blinked. And you alluded to mental toughness earlier. They just they had it in spades this series. They're like, we're not gonna lose, and getting game winning defensive plays, game one and two, and then Brunson doing his thing, and then that game six closeout. Seeing that in Madison Square Garden and seeing the fans going crazy.
Did you see the Brian Windhurst video
I
leaving
saw a
the
little
arena?
bit of it. I did. But it was
Some New York
crazy.
man on all the podcasts, he was trying to be judicious, I guess you would call it, about his take and saying, I don't think Boston's done yet. I don't think Boston's done yet. And then this fan uses very colorful language to like walk him into one of those, hi Brian, and then quickly of like, you know, uh, Boston's not done yet, are they? Boston's not done, and then just very colorfully, tons of things we can't repeat on the pod or in front of small children. It just dogged him, and even Wendy like got a chuckle out of it because he knew he was getting some jokes about it, as well too, about not saying it was over. But I mean, that crowd is going to be insane. They get to host the first two games against the Pacers as the 3 seed. Um, I mean,
And that
it's,
is
yeah,
Wednesday.
Wednesday. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. So that's how we got here in the East, man. This is the crazy. This is about as craziest a year I can think of. Like just in terms of who's available, who's not. Injuries definitely played a role in both series. I mean, were they a defining factor? You still got to go out there and play the games, and both Boston and Cleveland could not overcome those pieces. But
Who do you like?
that's a
Like, who do you like
I,
in this? Who do you like
I
to go
like
to the NBA Finals in the East?
I like the Pacers. I'm taking the Pacers. I'm going to take the Pacers in.
6?
I'm going to take the Pacers in 7.
Okay.
I would not be surprised if it's 6. I just here's the thing on New York. I think is they. I mean, they certainly have the talent to get to the finals. But I know what that coach demands out of his players in terms of playing time and like how much he plays them, how many heavy minutes they are. The Pacers have certainly the deeper bench, and the Pacers certainly have, I mean, just absolute athletic dogs out there. I mean, again, like Jalen Brunson's life is about to be in miserable. He is about to be miserable. He's about to be in jail for like the next 6 or 7 games. Just everything is going to be, an effort. And that's going to be with him, trying to flop himself out of getting full court pickup to get him to back off a little bit, with the head back and everything else. Then we'll see what the refs call, especially, when you got 40 some thousand fans in Madison Square Garden telling you suck, like for the rest. That's going to happen. I mean, on every flop that doesn't go Cat or Brunson's way. But I mean, that's where I'm at. Martin, do you see it different?
Ooh, I just it might run to the same thing that Boston and Cleveland did with Indiana. I mean, they won their first series in 5 against the Bucks, who didn't have Dame, but then they won this series in 5. And you talked about injury written stuff. I don't know what the Pacers are going to look like when their backs are against the wall. I know what the Knicks are going to look. That's my only like caveat. They have not been pushed so far in the playoffs either, which is
No.
crazy to say about the Indiana Pacers have not been pushed in the NBA playoffs. But I can see, I think if Indiana wins it, I think it'll be in 6 at Indiana. But if New
Yeah.
York, I think for New York, it's imperative they need to win the first 2
Yeah.
games at
They got
home.
to keep that home court advantage.
And then, yeah, that's just like you said, 1999. This is crazy. Madison Square Garden. All the people are going to Spike Lee, Reggie. It's gonna be some NBA pageantry. It really is.
Martin, we have, speaking of game sevens, we have one going right now to the fourth quarter.
Yep.
Oklahoma City at home is up by 24. They're
Hmm.
reviewing to see if a foul call happened before the clock expired on Holmgren. I think they are going to give him 2 free throws here, but um, you know, this was a competitive series in its own right, man. But it
Yes.
looks like it looks like for sure Oklahoma City is advancing.
Yes.
They,
It does look one more quarter left, like you said. It does look like that's the way it's going to go. I will say with this series, watching watching it as a big SGA fan, and then obviously the captain of the podcast, the one who's going to be getting Byron Mitchell, a big Thunder fan, and actually watching some of these games with them. I was with Byron. Spoiler alerts. I was with him game 1 where Aaron Gordon made that game-winning 3, and oh my, the anger that was pouring because in that 42 and 22 Joker game, we're like, oh, this is going to be a long series, Byron, and it went all the way to this game 7, and Evan, a lot of different people have stepped up, like Aaron Gordon. You want to talk about mental toughness? He should not be playing at all. He
it's
should
like
not be
it's like
playing,
medical negligence. He should not be playing right now.
and he's
Great.
contributing. He almost has a
Yeah.
double double.
Yep. Grade 2 hamstring issue. He should not be playing. I mean,
So,
this was I heard this on another pod, Martin. I don't know if
mhm,
I'd quite go there, but I mean, in terms of what we've seen so far across the board with some of these, shocking upsets and surprises and stuff,
mhm.
like, are we kind of watching the finals now?
Uh,
I thought that was a stretch for me, but the
I
more I
do.
thought about it, like it's definitely a stretch. But the more I thought about it, I'm like, yeah, I I could see where somebody could have that thought because I mean, it's been good. It's been back and forth. You've had some big performances. You've had some Denver. I mean, Christian Brown has made himself some money on an extension here in the next couple of years. I mean, he has had himself a playoffs
And then
and Jamal.
on the flip side of that, until today, Jalen Williams was losing himself money because of
Yeah,
how poorly he was shooting.
it's like 7 points in Game 6. It
He was
was
just,
bad.
yeah, now
No,
today
he
it's
he
picked
came
up.
full bounce back game today.
Mhm.
So you're Denver. Again, mind you, Denver fired their coach 4 days before the playoffs, and now they are,
Yes.
going to come up a game short, unless it's the biggest comeback in the history of ever. They're down 25 heading the fourth, but a game away from making the West Finals. I mean,
Hey, this is
they're
what happened to them last year. Remember,
yep.
that's why I was a little hesitant on this is the finals because the team that took them out last year is waiting in the Western Conference Finals. So this is the same situation. You fired a coach because blah blah blah, but now you're in the same situation, losing the semis at Game 7. This time it's not at your place because last year you lost to Minnesota when you were hosting the Game 7. This time you're losing to OKC. So their season ends the exact same way, and this is the way it's ended 2 straight years after winning the title.
Oklahoma City's just been so complete. I mean, they're throwing. I mean, you're sure you're looking at the stats right now. They're
Oh
just throwing
yeah,
up 23 today for Shea through three, 19 for Jalen Williams, 13 for Chet, 11 for Caruso, 10 for Hartenstein. Are those
Caruso is earning some more money.
the
That
Caruso? He just got himself money, but like he's proven he's worth it. Yeah, because he just signed a 4 year, like 90 some in the off season. But him and Hartenstein, you know, those acquisitions in the offseason gave them depth. It gave them like just defensive, like a defensive acumen that like they needed. And I mean, this team is so tough to play. I mean, I really I'll continue to talk about this as long as we're recording on this season. Um, Oklahoma City coming out of this and looking at the rest of the league, they're winning it all.
oh, that's
Everything
it.
else is a formality. They're winning it all.
We'll see, man. I will because we're gonna see. And just side note on this because but I don't know why it's taking so long for them to announce MVP.
They're waiting on the series to be over.
That's what I'm thinking now because usually the MVP is usually announced in the second round of the playoffs.
Early in the second round.
Yeah, to get it over with.
Yep.
Um,
They're waiting for this to be over
but
because it's between
that's
these two players. They've been
absolutely.
as advertised.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, Joker is still leading the entire playoffs in total points, total rebounds, total assists, and win shares. So it's salute to them. They'll be out though. And they'll be playing the Minnesota Timberwolves, who beat the Golden State Warriors. You talked about injuries being the name of the second round of the playoffs, Evan. You are right because the star of stars, Steph Curry, after winning game 1, I believe. Let me double check. Yeah, I believe they won game 1. Did they win game 1?
They won game one.
Yes, they did. That's what I thought. I was like, I know I'm not bugging. Steph Curry was out the rest of the series, and
We talked about this last time. I said
mhm,
if they because they we were on the verge of game seven with Houston, and
yes,
it was a toss up to see, but I said, if Golden State advances, what version of them are you even getting?
yes.
Because of the injuries, Jimmy Butler was hobbled in the last series. Like he definitely played more in this round, but I mean, Steph was done. Like I mean, poor guy. Like again, another a super duper star, another all star plagued
Hmm.
by injuries, and the Wolves did some Wolves things, and I let's just talk about Mr. Julius Randle.
Yes.
Let's talk
Yes.
about Julius Randle rebounding, assisting, scoring. I mean, just with, I mean, like a wing, a slightly smaller wing version with ball skills of like Zach Randolph physicality, like just putting people in the hoop and hooping. Like he was phenomenal.
Yeah. I mean, he. A lot of people owe him an apology because obviously they saw him in New York. There
How
was some
about
time.
that trade for both teams?
It
So
worked
you got the
out.
Knicks in the East Finals, you got the Timberwolves in the West Finals. Really with Cat and Randall back and forth. You're Timberwolves early on. You're like, man, regretting this Cat trade because they did not look good for a good chunk of the season. They're
Mhm.
productive. I mean, they certainly got up to a spot where they could stay in the playoffs, but they knock off the 3 seed Lakers. Just grind what's left of Golden State down how they should. Take care of the Lakers handily. I just I don't know what I worry that they've not been tested on top of it. They definitely got some size that at times absolutely gives Oklahoma City some issues, but yeah, I mean they were just great this series. You got a couple throwback Mike Conley games in there. I'm like, if old Mike Conley, is going to keep scoring, wow.
I mean, with Mike Conley too, I was just thinking outside of John Havlicek from Ohio State, who played on those legendary Boston teams, who at Ohio State has played more NBA playoff games more than Mike Conley? He's played over
Yeah.
100 playoff
Or
games.
just had a better career than those two,
Yeah, that's
than Hondo and Mike Conley. I mean, there just hasn't been. And we've had some folks come through. I mean,
hmm
come through the league certainly, especially more in recent years.
hmm
A lot of them sensible. Those guys are kind of
Malachi
unfortunate.
Brandon.
Malachi Branham's unfortunately, like you're talking, 8 to 12 spots on the bench, but yeah, I mean, Mike just such a steady presence, and I mean, again, like for him to be end up being the best player from that team with how the Odin injuries went down from that '07 title team or runner up title team. Just what a steal for the Grizz back at what was it pick 4 or so, and
Yeah.
just amazing.
Evan, with you
So
talked about Randall too. Like Randall
yep,
led series went to 5. He was the leading scorer in 3 out of the 5 games. Game 2, game 4, and game 5. He was the leading scorer.
I mean they just Vanderbilt's been great. Ant Man's been Ant Manning. Um, you know, Gobert hasn't been a minus by any
Uh,
means.
yeah.
But I just, yeah, I mean, I don't think between what the Lakers lacked and what was left with Golden State, I mean, I think OKC could come out punching to like, a 3-1 lead quick in this next series. I just don't, again, we've seen a lot of things happen. Oklahoma City's an injury away from some issues themselves. I mean, just like any team is, you never know. You got to play the games. But I don't know that they've been tested. They've done what's been asked of them though to this point.
Yeah, and both of them are gonna. Here's the thing with the Oklahoma City, now Minnesota Timberwolves Western Conference Finals. This is obviously the furthest the Oklahoma City Thunder have made it in the playoffs since the Durant and Russell Westbrook. The last year they were together, they had the 3-1 lead against Golden State and they lost it. And we know what the rest happened. The Cavs were in the same boat, but they won. So these are going to be now the biggest games. I don't know how they're going to act. At least Minnesota was in the Western Conference Finals last year, so they had something to fall back on. Like we've been here, we lost to because Kyrie was destroying them. So that's going to be very interesting to see. Like both these teams know one of them is going to have a shot to go. Not a shot. One of them will go to the NBA Finals. So I'm a mental toughness type guy. I'm very interested to see who's going to fold first.
OKC's now up by 30.
Oh yeah, it's SGA still in there. He's looking. I 102 to
Get him
72
out, get
shows.
him out, and keep him healthy. Like Dagnall call time. Like once it gets below 10 minutes here, it's 10-19 to go in the fourth. You're up 30. You cannot afford anything dumb. You cannot afford somebody to come down on somebody's ankle on a rebound. You cannot afford for somebody to get shoved underneath. Get them out.
Because they would play third if the Knicks game is Wednesday. They would play Thursday.
That sounds right.
Yeah, so we'll see. I'm excited because it's gonna be. Evan, this is very interesting for the fact too. Like most of this, the second round injuries played a part. Not in the first round, but in the second round. You
Yep.
look at these 4 teams: the Pacers, the Knicks, the Thunder, and the Timberwolves. I would say more so for like the West side, like, but also on the East side too. This is a new era because I can't wait to see the statistic of when's the last time in the past decade, whatever, that we had a conference finals, whatever, without like Steph, LeBron, or
Yep.
Joe. Like, I guess I'll throw in Joker, Jan, like Kevin Durant, like all these people. Like, this is a completely new time, and as my favorite wrestler's theme song is, man, it a lot of people's times are up, and it's their time now.
Yeah, I mean, again, I just more than, and I'd have to go back and look to see who the final four were. I know we don't use that terminology in the NBA to see, like, just okay, were there any outlier years or any weird years? Like, even the Warriors, that last title they won was a little kind of a funky year themselves. That Boston just didn't have it for some reason. Um, but yeah, I mean, this is such a weird year. I don't know that it's indicative of where things are going to go. Like, of these four teams left, I mean, maybe you could make it. I think you should make a good bet on the Pacers, that that they're going to continue to be up there in the upper echelon. But OKC is not going anywhere. Martin, we'll talk about the draft here in a second. They have two first round picks, and they are 4 wins away from the finals. Let that sink in, and that's going to continue.
hmm hmm No, I love it. I mean, because now we're really gonna see like this is like SGA versus Ant-Man. Like this is I don't want to do that face of the league nonsense, but it's like, all right, you guys want to be one of the top people representing this. Now you're really about to see one of you guys is going to the finals, the other was getting sent home. Like
Yep.
it is amazing the fact, and it's the fact too, like with Brunson and Tyrese. People forget too when Dallas had that first big run with Luca. Brunson was on that team. They didn't pay Brunson enough. Brunson goes to New York. I mean, and the rest has been history with them. He took that $100 million whatever X amount pay cut so that he could get his boys on the team, the Villanova Knicks. So this is great, man. I mean, me personally, and I have no like was one of my favorite player ever. Kobe played there, but I enjoy the Lakers and that fan base not being in the playoffs because they just talk way too much.
And Boston.
And Boston, but Boston doesn't pop up on my timeline just as much as the Lakers for some reason.
Oh, they do for me. We got
So it's
different
the
algorithms.
opposite. We have. It's probably because I don't know. It's maybe because I like a lot of LeBron like tweets, but then they think that like, and then all the Lakers stuff. I'm like, bro, I don't care. I don't care about y'all. Like, it's quiet. Like I'm actually just getting able to watch basketball and see new people flourish. But Evan, how do you think this series is going to go, man? Because
Yeah,
you have Pacers versus it's looking like you're going Thunder, but how do you think the
yeah.
Thunder are going to get there? Five
Sweeper,
games, six.
sweeper, gentleman, sweep.
Okay, okay. I mean, I'm not going against my guys. Yeah, I got the Thunder too, but I got the
Edwards
Thunder in the
has
final.
Edwards has to just live in the torture chamber for the next 4 to 7 games, and I mean, Gobert, like, we know he's a minus on the offensive side, except for a rim roller. But you've got the size now in Hartenstein and Chet to just body up as much as you can. Like, I wonder where, with how historically good Oklahoma City is. I wonder who's going to be that guy to step up and make shots for the Timberwolves. And yeah, we just praised Julius Randle, but it's not just like Lou Dort is their only defender. Like, Caruso is going to have some minutes on him as an undersized wing. You're going to have Jalen Williams at times. They'll probably go a little bit bigger and go J Dub. They've got the bodies, man. And then just, I mean, any given day, like, Wiggins could give you 15 to 18 with 4 threes off the bench too. Like, I got OKC. You?
Oh, I have OKC. OKC. Yeah, I'm not. I'm not.
I
I
don't want to
want.
get beyond. I don't want to get beyond this series because injuries kind of got me a little surprised on last time. So we'll revisit to see if we're right. If it's if we're at a We'll revisit when we're in the finals. We'll say that. We'll see
Yep.
what each series yields.
Yep. But there should be more I don't know if this will help. There'll be more rest time because if they're really not playing until Thursday, that's a long time.
That's a long time.
So, but it'll be
But we just
interesting.
had a game 7 today.
True, that's true. But it's gonna be great. This is great for the league. The crowning of this. A new
Uh,
young star is coming out of the West.
Speaking of new young stars, are we ready to go conspiracy Evan?
Trying to think if there's anything really, really. Yeah, we can go there. We can go there. Yeah.
Absolute negligence being rewarded. The Dallas Mavericks won the number 1 pick. Trading away Luca, getting injured. We're still only 2 years away from them. 2 years away from them intentionally throwing the end of their season for a draft pick for Derek Lively. Like they just, it's unbelievable. And knowing them, they'll do something squirrely and like get them in the Giannis sweepstakes too with that number 1 pick. So Martin, your two or your three worst teams with the even lottery odds: the Washington Wizards, Utah Jazz, fall out and do not get a top 3 pick.
Yep.
And then you had San Antonio advance to the second. Where would things be in Philly? Because Philly got what, the 3rd pick,
Yes.
4th? Yep. Where would things be in Philly right now if they hadn't gotten that after the tankathon season, after all the Joel stuff, after giving Paul George, a giant deal for him to just be horrendous all year? I don't know what to say, but so now they're kind of like justified in some of the crap they've done.
I mean, they had a 1.8 percent chance of getting that pick, and the fact that they did get it, I was shocked. My jaw literally dropped to the
As did everybody's.
floor when that happened, and I just started laughing and laughing and laughing. I more laughed not for the fact that they won that pick, for the fact that like a team like Utah, like in Washington, are like 5 and 6 respectively. They're not even in the top three.
No.
And then when San Antonio's like, bro, there's no way they're gonna have Cooper Flag and Wemby on the same team with De'Aaron. Like I was just like, nah. And then it went to Dallas, and I just sat there quietly, like, oh my gosh, they really just got the number one pick, and first time in NBA in basketball history that the WNBA and the NBA's number one pick went to the same city because Dallas had the number one pick in the WNBA and they took Paige. So that was crazy. Like, and now it's just like, oh, there's hope in Dallas again, just like that.
Martin, do the Spurs have the assets
Mhm.
to swap 2 for 1 while keeping Wemby and Castle?
Oh, to move up to number one. Oh, to take it from Dallas.
Yep.
I don't know what they would. Oof, what would they give? So Wembley's off, obviously, but
Yeah.
nah, I don't think so. I think Milwaukee does.
It's all about what Giannis wants to do. I mean,
Hmm.
at a certain point, every franchise goes through this. You've got reporters that just want chaos and clicks, and they will a story into existence.
Yep.
And even for the most strong-willed, like Giannis, so I want my career to end in Milwaukee every once in a while. And he's by all accounts, like Dame, he's held out the longest
Hmm.
and continues to say good things. But every once in a while, tides start to turn, and you had that report last week that like he's not seeking other things, but maybe for the first time in his career, he's maybe open to the idea of it. Like it starts with those little narratives from somebody's cousin or somebody's buddy, and then there's a kernel of truth in something like. But I mean, like it's when you have a number 1 pick, man, just like the Cavs with Wiggins and and Kevin Love, and I mean Giannis is just an absolute game changer. That immediately makes Dallas everything immediately, and then they get rewarded again. But I mean, no shade to Cooper because Cooper Flag is going to be a fantastic player. I mean, there's a reason why he was on the NBA or the Team USA select team coming in and playing and preparing, guarding Anthony Davis as a 17-year-old last summer. Like the dude is phenomenal.
Yep. Yep. I mean, I don't
We'll
think,
see.
I honestly think that they are not going to trade the pick at all. I think he's going to get drafted there.
I mean,
Uh,
that's the safest bet.
yeah. So then you'll
Have your
have,
foot have one foot in on the future, and then you've got your 30-plus-year-old injury plagued folks in Kyrie and Anthony, and when they're on the court,
and Klay Thompson. We forget he's on
and
that
Clay
team.
Thompson, when they're on the court,
So,
things can happen. But they've got some other moves to make too. So
yeah. I mean, we're down to four. We're down to, like you said, we don't use it often. We're down to the final four teams. We're going to know who's going to be in the NBA finals the next time we record, which is so exciting. The finals previews. I am really intrigued in these series because I know we've made our picks, but they could they can go either way. Maybe a player goes nuclear and changes the whole dynamic, or maybe someone gets hurt and changes the whole dynamic. So it's it's a great. I'm excited.
yeah, I mean it's going to be on us before we know about it, or before we can even fathom that it's finals time. But I mean it's we're in for some good basketball still for sure. I mean, again, there's still plenty of players that can go nuclear. But yep, and then we'll see. Again, who gets home court advantage. For the finals and where it goes and all the storylines in between, and then we'll be inching closer to draft time as well too, because it's a 12-month cycle with this stuff. And the end of June is already the draft and free agency, and we'll keep rolling. But I mean, again, we got to keep living in this season, Martin. There's a lot of good ball ahead of us.
Yeah, and even though my next thing, just really, really quickly to end, is something about next season. I'm really loving what NBC is about to do because I don't know how the heck they got Michael
Michael
Jordan.
Jordan,
Yeah, I don't because again, for people like the guy doesn't do interview like he's a very like
I
reclusive
str- I struggle with this.
like I don't know what he's gonna say. Like I don't I know it's not like every day. It's like a limited. I know
It
it's
seems
special
like it's
case.
kind of in that Kobe role. Did I read that wrong? Like where Kobe did the like
The
kind of like
basketball muse. Yeah, yeah.
the kind of muse and let me just
Hmm.
talk about a player and what I like. Like that's going to be the weird part for me. Like I just struggle with this. I like Michael Jordan living outside of the daily coverage and everything else and being kind of like this sacred basketball deity that's
Yeah,
like in a in a temple in Egypt and
yeah.
like
Because you can't
he
find him.
he
You
he
can't.
comes out he comes well you can find him probably at the gambling track but
Well, yeah,
um
but he owns his
and
stuff there
NASCAR
too.
and
Yep.
everything else. Yeah. But and obviously golfing, but like yeah,
Mhm.
in terms of basketball, what are you going to do? Like I wonder if it time will tell, but I wonder if it like cheapens it because like I think he's had some success. And don't get me wrong, like all the young kids are like, yeah, LeBron's the goat, LeBron's the goat. And LeBron's made as good a run as anybody's ever going to be at trying to get to that goat status comparatively
Yeah.
next to him. But like, there's always been this piece. Old heads, dads have been able to say with their kids, and people even our age of like, listen,
Oh,
like,
Evan, no. Western Conference Finals game is Tuesday.
okay, so they bumped it up as opposed to
Yeah.
okay.
Hmm.
So um, more basketball sooner. I struggled yesterday with no basketball at all. So having
Yesterday was weird. It was.
it was weird. It was weird. Saturday as we're recording today on Sunday, but so I mean I struggle with that of like, and I want like look no further than the Kobe example, right? Where like you've got this like Kobe did a couple little vignettes on Jason Tatum, and then I was like, all right, well now this is Jason Tatum's favorite player is Kobe Bryant, and like it like there was like he's blessed like Kobe Bryant's blessed Jason Tatum now, and it's like do we have to have Michael Jordan bless Ant Man or this person or that person? Like I just like that's going to change how they talk. Like how you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I feel like it's just it's like we're swapping. I don't know. It just feels like we're kind of cheating the legacy. But by all means, Michael Jordan had to agree to this. Michael Jordan wants the money from this, so he's got a strategy game we don't see and has wants and that we don't see either.
Yeah, and I mean he talked about how like NBA on NBC was like a big part of his career, which it was. That was like pinnacle, especially the music that goes with NBA on NBC is amazing. And like the stuff that they're doing there, bringing back like player introductions,
Yeah, that'll be
like
cool.
just cool stuff like that. Again, I'll be very interested to see is like, is this going to be like basketball Michael Jordan, like talking on like The Last Dance, or is this going to be like business owner of the most popular shoe in existence,
Yeah,
billionaire, like politically correct, like, oh, I think every player is good. That Michael Jordan. That's what I'm most interested in seeing. Which one is it going to be? And there's no way NBC, ABC or NBC is not going to do whatever it takes on a Fox special to have him and LeBron sit down. No shot they're not going to let not have that happen.
absolutely. It's going to happen.
So,
Unless LeBron doesn't want it to.
well,
LeBron still has cards
we know
to
whose
play
camp
himself.
is when it happens. We're gonna know whose camp said no, and then that's going to be the
Oh yeah.
talking points forever.
Oh yeah.
So, anything else, Evan, on this basketball Sunday? Is this
No,
game
that's it. I'm
completely
glad you brought
blinded?
up the NBC piece. I mean, I think there's an opportunity here for, especially when there's all this active player chatter about the old heads just crapping on the game or talking ill of the game, and that's why ratings are down. And you know, there's that open narrative right now. And as much as Chuck and Shaq want to fight it off and stuff, they are absolutely a part of that discussion. But I mean, what? How will these Michael clips go, or will it be so scripted you won't even get any flavor like that out of him?
Yep.
But Michael is has the potential to be this, bring this influx of nuanced perspective from back in the day with who everybody considers to be the GOAT. And he can come in and change the narrative quick, like you said, with, how he is analyzing the game, how he analyzes players, their mentality, all the things. So,
I wonder if his buddy Tom was the one who like kind of nudged him because obviously we were wondering like how from one goat to another how Tom was going to do in the booth for the first year, and
yeah,
obviously that's on a more consistent thing because Tom is doing
sure.
one every Sunday. But maybe he was
And
just
it's
like,
live.
hey, and it's live. Like I don't see any of these being live, so
Yeah, I don't either. But all good things, and the game continues to evolve. Let's just sometime over the summer, Adam Silver, please fix the All Star game and just make it winner gets home court in the finals. Like people would play for that. That's just where it needs to be.
boom. And with that being said, thank you everyone for listening to the L7C podcast. We got the Final Four, baby. Tuesday night, it is going to be the Thunder hosting the Wolves. Wednesday, it's going to be the Knicks hosting the Pacers. Two of these teams are going to the NBA championship. Who will be? You'll find out next time we come back. With that being said, L7C signing out. Thank you for listening to this episode of the L7C podcast. Be sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on all social media platforms, and we'll be talking to you guys soon. Take care.